Hey everyone, and welcome to part 3 of colony tracing. Today we're back at my client's bees. We're going to be progression mapping 2 of them. So we'll see the 3rd progression in the month of March here. And so now we're really starting to track that progress of our colonies, their growth. We'll probably do one more, and then I'm going to show you a unique part of this progression mapping tool after. It's something that we do after each month, so that we see the overall picture and ups and downs of our beehives. So I've already got a smoker lit sitting on the beak jeep there, so let's go. Spring is such a nice time to get into the hives because you see such a fast difference from inspection to inspection. I've got my map here in this folder. I've got the blue colored pencil to indicate this colony over here, the yellow one to indicate this colony here. We're now using the second half of the month's progression mapping chart. Remember, the first half covers the first 15 days. These 3 cover the last 16-ish days of the month. So as usual, we begin with mapping the external conditions, the weather, rainfall, and forage availability. Okay, so today's the 20th, so we're going to be using this column. It is sunny. There's little wind, but it's not enough to mark on the map here. It's just very little. Rainfall, as again, you can see I haven't been keeping up with this last few days. I think we've only had one night full of rain. I think it was over here. Something I need to catch up on. This definitely is the lazy meter on my progression map. Forage availability, we are definitely still having a lot of incoming nectar. It is minor sources. We're not in a honey flow yet, but we're also not in a dearth. There's a lot available. So now, with the last 2 sheets of this progression map, this is the part where we get to dive back into the hives. All right, as usual, we're going to start with Blue Hive. Smoke them a little bit. They've got paper on the entrance from what's left over of the mountain camp. They've been bringing out of the colony. All right, I'm going to bring you guys closer. We're going to start taking this first one apart. Now this one still has the shim underneath the quilting box. I think it's because of the comb they built up, and they still had not finished their fondant patty. So we'll see if we can do something about that today. Here's what it looks like underneath. So they had built up comb because of the extra space in there from the shim. This is not a big deal. I can clean this up, but there's something I want you to keep in mind if you ever face this. I try to avoid it, but the maple flow enabled them to start building comb. But the thing to keep in mind is your queen could be in this mess. So you want to clean this up gently. If we got enough time today, I'll show you how to do that. But a good practice in the meantime is pretending that the queen is in there. I like to leave the box right up front. Notice I've tilted the box. It's actually leaning against the entrance. As I inspect this hive, these bees will smell the queen and they'll start to come up the box and go into the colony. Let's see what they've got left on their fondant patty. They've still got that much left. That's probably half of what I gave them. They really don't need any more. I'll probably just leave this out for them to feed on external of the hive. And in the meantime, since there's a bunch of bees in there, I'm going to leave this propped up so the bees can fly out and exit. A little bit of smoke on these bees. The comb on these top bars will be cleaning up. And you notice, like, as I go along, I've got goals that I want to accomplish. Just by getting in here and seeing what I'm dealing with, I decide what I want to do, how I want to leave them, so to speak. All right, so again, a bare frame, they'll get that during the flow coming up. Next frame, let's see if they've done any more with. No, not really, not since last time, but we will bring it out and give ourselves room to work. Nice frame, heavy with open nectar, spotted with pollen. This side, we still got capped honey, a lot of open nectar, just like last time. Getting to our first frame of brood here. Nice pattern. Everything that's open are adult bees that have emerged, and the queen has come along and laid fresh with eggs. I even see some of them older. They've become larvae. This successive pattern is what you want to see, and of course there's our queen. Always a frame we want to be aware of when we are doing our inspections. I'm going to put her there, slide her 2 so she doesn't get harmed. Now I know that the rest of these frames don't have the queen, so I can work those accordingly. I'm still gentle, but I feel like when I know where the queen is, I can just not worry so much. Nice solid brood there. Again, they've got all 3 stages out to the edges. I see a little bit of drone brood there. Very solid with capped brood on this side. And all of the nurse bees, the new bees that have recently emerged that I'm seeing on here, they look healthy. And I'd love to zoom in and show you an example of that. But my camera's being washed out right now by the sun and I can't see well enough to do that. So you just have to take my word for it. Next frame of brood. Remember, we've charted that they've got 3 frames each time we've come, which is only 2. So let's see if they've extended to the next one. Again, the queen is moving to the outer edges of all these frames, just filling it up with eggs. Beautiful. And here we've got a bee. She's emerging as we speak. And then one next to her is chewing her way out. Let's try to get this. Here she comes. There she goes. Brand new bee. Look at her wings. Welcome to the world, bee. She's going to start looking for something to eat. Okay, let's see if the queen has extended the brood nest to frame number 4. Well, you know, 4 frames of brood. Here we go. If she's done it, it'll be on this side. All right, I'm looking down in. I do see some empty cells where there weren't before. So what I'm going to say is, because I see them emptying this area in a crown shape, they're preparing for the queen to move into this area. Whenever you see that crowned shape where you would expect to see brood, they're making room for her. There's still some pollen in here that they've got to move, consume, whatever, but they're cleaning these cells up, and the queen will probably be laying in here next time we come. And of course, there's a nice side of capped honey. The next frame is a big old frame of capped honey too. All right, I'm going to push everything back together. We'll get our map out and I'll bring you guys right back. Oh, just realized we do have time for me to show you how to clean up a mess like that. Now we know that the queen is here. We have no worry about losing her or harming her in that mess. I've already scraped some of the top bars. Got the comb sitting here. Here's how I'm going to deal with them. First, we're going to smoke them a little bit. Some of them will take flight. Most of them won't. All right. And now I'm going to take the box, turn it over carefully with a good grip, and go somewhere I'm not going to walk and bump the edge of the box. The bees will go onto the ground. I still have some in here, quite a few. I'm going to turn it around. The bees are now looking for where to go. I'm going to bump them again. I still have a lot of bees on here, but it gives me a good start to start scraping the edges of this comb and getting it out so that I can put this back on the hive and remove the shim. So now you'll notice the bees, a lot of them are starting to fan and walk over here to the block. They'll start coming up towards the entrance of the colony. In the meantime, I won't be walking over there. I'm going to start scraping this stuff off very carefully. Again, I'm going to smoke them. They're starting to fan because they think this is home. And it used to be, but it's not anymore. So I like to get contact with my hive tool so I don't bring it down on a bee. And then carefully move it under a comb and pop the comb instead of just scrape it. It's easier to pop comb when it's cold, but this is, you know, fresh stuff out of a hive, so it's going to be warm and pliable. Shake the bees off. And I just do this one at a time until all this is gone. Make sure there's no bees on here, smoke them, and I'm good to go. Okay, on the 20th, recording a blue colony. There were still a lot of eggs, although they've got way more capped brood. They're running out of room to lay eggs, but she's doing it. Their velocity of brood production is fast. It has not slowed down. They are continuing to grow. And again, they've got 3 frames of brood. Although we saw in the 4th one, they're opening it up for her to lay, and I'll bet next time we will see that. The population density, there's a lot of bees in there. Relatively speaking, for a single deep hive coming out of winter. Comb building, yes, they were doing it on the inner part underneath the quilting box. And again, I'm already making a mistake that I did last time. I'm not leaving room to mark yellow hives, so I'm going to reflect that here. Space adequacy, yes, they still have plenty of space. I'm only filling in half this, so I've got room for yellow hive. Resource placement, they're still putting it around the brood area, but I've noticed less because they're expanding the brood on those frames, and they're also still putting it around the peripheral of the brood nest. Drone production, saw drone brood in this one. Queen selectivity, I saw no queen cells. So still, as of this time, they're not considering swarming. Their overall tone, those were some happy bees who didn't get stung, wearing a black t-shirt like a crazy guy. All right, there we go. So that's it for blue hive. Let's move on to yellow hive. All right, popped out the quilting box. A calm bunch of bees. None of them are jumping on my hand. I am moving slowly, but they still have a nice demeanor. This is a queen right hive. And look how many frames that they're on. And I smoked them. The reason there's no bees right here is because when I lifted the quilting box, this is where I stuck the smoker. Those bees went down. Starting with the outside frame as usual. Safest place to start. As far as the queen is concerned, we roll a lot less bees, hopefully none. They are not utilizing this comb yet, but they will. And if you recall last time, I considered adding a box to them, but I didn't do it because we had a cold snap coming. Well, that cold snap is over, and so today we'll be putting another box on them. They still haven't utilized this. Technically speaking, I wouldn't have to put a box on them. I could force them into this, but it's not going to hurt anything. It's spring. All right, this is primarily pollen. There are empty cells. I do not see eggs in those cells. I do see the glisten of open nectar. Here's our first brood frame, mostly capped. I do see larvae down in between, also spotted with pollen. Primarily capped on this side. Good, how are you? Okay, that was my client. He's the caretaker of this area because, well, he owns it, of the alpaca farm. Let's get back into our hive. All right, we've seen 1 frame of brood so far. It was this one. Time to move to our next one. Oh yeah, so that those, what looks like to you from your perspective as empty cells, it was capped brood. It's all emerged, and the queen has now laid it with eggs. And this area here, which emerged first, is already larvae. The other side, there's our queen. All 3 stages of brood, a lot more open brood than capped. And of course, this is our second frame of brood, one with the queen, so I'm extra careful with that one. These bees are so calm, they're not even buzzing, hardly at all. This is going to be brood frame number 3. You already see drone brood on this one, a lot of capped. And this area right here is raised. These are larger cells. So this little chunk here is going to be drone brood. There's larvae and eggs down in there. They'll grow up to be the boys. Of course, all 3 stages on that side. Still no evidence of any signs of swarming. Looking down, looks like I need to clean the bottom boards off. I forgot to do that. That's in my opinion, important spring cleaning chore for the beekeeper upon first spring inspections. Frame number 4 of brood right here. Still some capped on this one, a lot of open. A lot of solid capped brood on this side. And it's laid out to the edges with eggs. This is a growing colony. Now, part of the thing with me adding a box, if I didn't, I would force them to have to use these other outside frames. And that's okay. But then you're playing with cramped space a little bit, and you might instigate that tendency to feel like swarming. And this is our 5th frame of brood. We counted 5 last time, I believe. Fortunately, we took their records, so we'll know. And there's bees on this last frame here, so let's see what's going on with it. It is open nectar, pollen, blowing the bees off. It looks like they're also opening this area, just like the other colony, for the queen to be able to lay. So they're expanding. Let's go ahead and put this one back together. I'll bring you right back, and we will mark their progression. Now, like I said, I could use the strategy of forcing my bees in this box to use those frames before giving them more, but it really doesn't matter. It's spring, they're going to grow no matter what. So I've got a fresh box here. It's just foundation. This has never been on bees yet. It's going to be a while before they draw this. And it has nothing to do with whether these are waxed or not. It has to do with, do the bees feel like they have the resources to draw wax? And we're not on a flow yet. So I'm going to let them gauge and make that judgment call. But there's something you should know when you put a box on with brand new foundation, and it's this. You don't want these things to just be spaced whatever. The bees need to draw this straight without forming any burr comb. So you've got to push these frames in tight. So I like to put my fingers against one side, use my Hive tool, and get a nice, even, tight thing. Just like when you're racking the balls playing pool in that triangle. You want these to be tight so that they draw the combs nice and even. They're going to start in the middle. And by the time they get out here, if you're worried about this larger gap, you'll be able to control it. By the time they get out here with wax, you can then take these out, move them into the middle, move everything else out, and still have it tight. They'll draw it nice. Once you've got comb on these frames, you can space them evenly. All right, so here we go with this one. Man, you guys have seen me 2 videos in a row mess this up. So a lot of presence of eggs. That queen is going to town. Their brood production velocity wise, they are moving fast, and they've got 5 frames of brood. This works in this case. The other colony only had 3. So there's my 5. We're going to mark the last page of the map now. Adult population density, it is high. A lot of bees in that box. Again, I could come up with a way to be more detailed and accurate with this one other than 3 different scales. Comb building, I'm going to say yes, because they were still building comb on top of the top bars, but they're not building comb in like on bare frames yet. They're not at that level quite yet because external influences, the forage availability is not at that level. Space adequacy, yes, they have it. Just gave them more, so now they really have it. Resource placement, I did still see resources around the brood, on the brood frames, but there was less because they're starting to put it more on the periphery, which tells me they're working on expanding the brood on the brood frames to more. Still not storing it above because they don't have anywhere to put it. Drone production, saw drones and drone brood. No signs of any queen cells, so they still have no intention of swarming, and of course their behavioral tone was quite nice. Didn't get stung today. So I like to leave a tidy yard. I accidentally spilled the shavings out of the quilting box. I'll clean those up later. Got the shims, I'll store those on the other side of the shed. But whenever you make changes like this to a colony, you'll notice your bees up front are kind of like, wait, what? They'll have to reorient a little bit, but they always manage to do so really quickly. The bees that I dumped on the ground over here ended up not coming up the corner like I thought they would. They went over to that fondant patty because that's what smells the most like home and it's closer to them. So I'm gonna have to do something with that. So they all go back into the hive. I'll probably just shake it at the hive entrance and then put that bag somewhere else. So be on the lookout for part 4, where we come back one more time this month to see their growth. And then we're gonna have a part 5, a final part where we put it all together on the monthly aspect of the progression mapping system. Thanks guys for joining me today. I got a little bit of cleanup to do, so I'll see you in the next one. Hive Doctor out.